Yes, sir.
Hello, Dean.
What's going on, man?
What's going on, dude? How you doing, man?
I am good. I am celebrating the fact that the fucking holidays are over. We can get back to some sort of normalcy in day-to-day life that doesn't involve faux cheer and greeting people that you see once a year and you have to act like they're a long-lost friend.
Hell yeah, dude. Hell yeah, man. Well, fucking angry old man, dude. What a fucking crazy fucking badass fucking shit, dude.
Thank you.
Man, what a fucking awesome record, dude. Like, Jesus, man. Like, every time I listen to it, dude, I find something different in it that I like, man. It's so fucking, so badass, man.
Well, that is in my opinion, one of the highest compliments one can get. It's like with a film that is just layered, and each time you watch it, you notice something new, or in this case, hear something new, and I really appreciate that. Thank you for that.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So tell us, like, give us a brief history rundown. You know, like, how did you get started? How did this all happen, and how did this record come about?
Well, the first night of the tour, David Ellefson asked me, "What's your musical background?" And I said, I saw Kiss on TV when I was 9. That made me want to play music. That led me to Black Sabbath. That made me want to play dark and heavy music. And when I heard Judas Priest, I had my vocal template. Started doing the garage band thing when I was 12 years old, and just kept chugging away. Finally joined Iron Man at the end of 2010, and then kind of stumbled into the solo thing 10 years ago. Just started writing songs and tossing them up on YouTube for the fun of it, and it just kind of grew legs from there, and I figured it would be a one and done kind of thing, but here we are a decade later, and going stronger than ever.
Man, Kiss, Judas Priest, and Black Sabbath, dude. That's a hell of a fucking, that's what I'm talking about, dude. Like, that's, you can't lose with that kind of combination.
Right. You know, people would ask me, "Why do you like Kiss so much?" You know, when I'm a kid, I'm like, "Oh man, they're dark and scary," and they're like, "Oh no. You want to hear dark and scary?" And a friend of mine dropped the needle on side one of the Black Sabbath debut, and I'm like, "Holy shit! Yes, this is." Because I was always a horror film kid. My sister used to take me to see horror films when I was little. I'm on a Facebook group for horror films on Tubi, and somebody asked, "What was the first horror movie you ever saw, you know, in the theater?" And I said, "Well, it wasn't the theater, but my sister took me to see It's Alive at the drive-in." I was 6 or 7 years old, so I was immersed in all things dark and sinister at a very young age, so it only made sense that music would follow along with that.
Hell yeah, man. Hell yeah. You know, and I also want to ask about Black Doomba Records, but, you know, before I say that, like, you know, when Tommy hit me up and asked me to help promote this record, after I was looking into it and everything, then I figured out that you were the singer from Iron Man. I was like, dude, yeah, fuck, I remember that record, man. That record was bad fucking ass. South of the Earth, man.
Yeah,
I remember when that shit came out, I was like, fuck, this is insane, dude. But, like,
I am so proud to have been on that record. You know, it was a very chaotic time in my life when we were recording that, and I think all that did was fuel me creatively, or just where the performance goes. I was able to get a lot of heart and angst and just pain into that, and it's a pain in the ass when you're dealing with it, but when you look back, you think, well, it served a purpose. It served as a very helpful tool to really come across on record the way you want to come across. And it's been almost 13 years now since we started recording that, man.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Time just rolls right on.
It does. Yeah, time does not it does not forgive, man. It just keeps on.
It sprints and it never gets winded. Never. It just runs and runs and runs, and all we can do is hang on and try to enjoy the ride as much as we can. That's why I'm an angry old man instead of an angry young man.
Hell yeah. I feel you, man. I feel you. So tell us how did you get hooked up with fucking Tommy and Black Doomba Records, man?
I mean, Tommy and I have known each other for quite some time now, through the scene and through Maryland Doomfest and whatnot. And he and I started chatting. This would have been close to a year ago, and he was like, I wouldn't mind releasing your next record. And it was already in the can, recorded, mastered, videos were done, just waiting. So I let him hear some of it, and he was way behind it. He, it's definitely a different flavor from everything else on the label. But he believed in it, loved the material, loves my work ethic, and so off we went with it.
Yeah. It's definitely one of my favorite things that he's put out on his label, dude. And he sent me the He sent me the vinyl thing, the whole thing, dude. Like, just, and oh my god, like the amount of detail and stuff that he puts into that, like, he really makes it a fucking. It's a cool experience, man. When you order something from Black Doomba Records, you're not just gonna get like the regular fucking whatever, I don't know, like, right. There's always extra stuff in there, and it's just cool, like the way that he man, came out looking great, sounds great. It's just
Thank you. Yep. This was this was my 5th solo record, and it's the first one that got a vinyl release. So that was very cool to me. He had a couple copies of it on the Black Doomba table at Maryland Doomfest, and that was the first I actually got my hands on the vinyl. And I'm walking out, and Victor Griffin's on his way in, and I handed Victor a copy, and I said, "Hold this up and take a picture with me." So there's a picture of Victor and me each holding up a copy of Angry Old Man, which I thought was kind of cool.
Yeah. Fucking legendary, man.
Yes.
Speaking of legendary, you just got back from a tour in Europe, opening up for fucking Dave Ellefson, man. What was that like?
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
It was great. I mean, had a really great showing over there. It was exhausting. I was in a tremendous amount of pain the whole trip. One of the downsides of being an old man, angry or otherwise, is sometimes your body decides that it's going to remind you of the mileage. So I had terrible sciatica starting about 2 weeks before we left, and actually that just cleared up early this week. I'm finally pain-free, so
that's good to hear, man.
Glad for that. But the shows went really well. David and all of his people were great to us, and it was a very positive experience. It was just a run of 5 shows. We started in Belgium. They did a date in Germany, 1 in Austria, and 2 in Italy before closing it out. And it was like I said, it was a great experience. It was my 2nd time touring over there, and this one far eclipsed the last time in 2018. It was very cool.
Hell yeah! What kind of stuff did they do on their set, man? Did you watch?
Oh yeah, every night.
Were you fanboying?
No, I was just chilling, hanging out. They did a lot of Megadeth stuff, of course.
Hell yeah.
They did some of his his solo work, stuff outside of Megadeth, like with Jeff Scott Soto and stuff like that. And then they did stuff like they did Metal Gods, they did Running Free, they did Riff Raff. So it was a cool little, very nostalgic kind of set. It was a lot of fun to watch. He had a band of guys together from that part of the world, which makes a lot of sense, and you don't have to fly anybody out. They just meet you there. And they were on point every night. They sounded great. One of the shows was postponed. The fourth show, which was in Pordenone, was postponed until the spring. So the tour promoter hit me up and said, hey, if you want to drive on through to Cremona, which was where the last gig was, he says you could jump on the bill with Ripper Owens that night. That way you don't have an off day. So I said, hell yeah. So we drove on through, and I did direct support for David, and I figured just getting on last minute, I'd open the show for Ripper, and they were like, no, you're direct support. So that was very cool.
Yeah, what was that like, man? Ripper's a fucking crazy vocalist, dude. He's awesome.
He did a lot of Priest, a lot of his stuff with Priest, and a lot of Halford era, and then just select things that he's done in other bands and whatnot over the years. And it was a great show. I just sat back there watching, and I thought, sometime, somewhere in a past life, I really lived right to get to do this kind of stuff. It's never lost on me how fortunate it is as a music fan to be able to do this, just to be a part of it. So I'm very grateful for that.
Hell yeah, man. Hell yeah. Well,
and I would like to point out, because she's listening, I would not have gotten through this trip without my wife, April. She was behind me every step of the way, putting a foot in my ass, threatening hotel staff with bodily harm because we were leaving for a venue one night and the garage door wouldn't open. So they told us to take a cab, and we're like, fuck you. And so she really picked up the slack where I couldn't do things. She was moving gear and was handling merch. She wore many, many hats in that trip, and I love her for it, and wouldn't have been able to do it without her.
Dude, that's fucking awesome, man. Yeah, you know what? I totally agree with you. I can't agree with you more on that. Like, behind every great man is a great woman. Telling him that he's wrong. Yeah, man. Fucking Raven, she's always putting a boot up my ass sometimes, when I need it, man, and she makes shit happen, dude.
Yes.
I mean, you got to have that, man. It's a good team. It's a good fucking thing to just have naturally, because it's already built in. So it's like, I don't know, man. It just works.
Yeah. I was very fortunate, and very fortunate. So something else that I'm very grateful for.
Well, tell us about this record, man. What are some of these songs about, and like lyrically, like what are some of the themes and influences behind these songs? I actually started writing the songs on this record in late 2002, which was a full, 9 months or so before Old Scratch Comes to Appalachia was released. That was my most recent album before this one. And I was at Maryland Renaissance Festival and heard one of the bands there play an old sea shanty. And one of the lines in the sea shanty mentioned a last cold kiss. And I said, that's a cool title. So in the next couple days, I was banging around and came up with a riff, and that's where Last Cold Kiss came from. It was the first song written, the first song recorded, and I said, it's going to be the first song released when this album eventually comes out, whenever that is. And that ended up being the case.
there's a lot going on in the world, man, and it was very easy to have things to write about. This was probably the first record I've done that didn't involve, to a great detail, the storytelling element that a lot of my songs have. A lot of my songs and my stories and books sort of overlap and share themes with one another. This one was really about kind of the state of the world. Probably the closest thing to storytelling is the last track on the album, The Damned Human Race. That was based on a Mark Twain story. But everything else is pretty much just throw a dart at a newspaper, pull the dart, see what pissed you off in the article it hit, and write a song about it.
Perfect, man. Fucking angry old man, dude.
Yes.
Yeah, there's lots of shit to be angry about, so.
Yes. Very, very much so. And I try to write things, and this has been a case ever since I started writing lyrics. I try to write things. Everything I write is about a specific thing, but I like to write it in a way that it can be interpreted a lot of different ways. And I always get a kick out of when somebody will do a review of an album and reading what they interpret the song to be about. I always love that, to see how different people view my lyrics and what I'm talking about. And most of the time they're not correct, but that's fine, because that's what I want. I figure the broader the scope, the more people can identify with it.
Hell yeah. As far as the reception for this record, how has it been so far? I think it's been kind of like a slow burn, but it's definitely starting to really catch on, I think.
I think what's going to a new label and sort of with a new crowd of people, for lack of a better description. Definitely when I play live, people respond well to it, and then sort of discover it from there. But I think definitely when people hear acoustic, there's a predisposition image that I think comes into a lot of people's minds. Just general music fans. The metal crowd and the doom crowd and everything, when they hear acoustic, they're going to think of Wino, and they're going to think of Zach Wild and guys like that. Mm-hmm. But I think across the broader spectrum of just rock music fans, when they hear acoustic, they might be thinking more along the lines of Jim Croce or James Taylor, or just more easy listening kind of thing. And then I go out there with my metal voice and sing about killing a motherfucker. And so I think people have to absorb that a little bit and go, oh, okay, I see what we got going on here, and then they're cool with it. The crowds in Europe ate it up. They're so receptive over there, and they want to talk about where your songs come from, and what you're thinking, and all kinds of cool stuff. So they're very receptive of it. But I think the live show is a great gateway to that, as it should be.
Yeah, I've always been a fan of acoustic style stuff, especially when it's done right. But I was always a big fan of a lot of the early unplugged fucking sessions that used to happen on MTV back in the day, and or like when GNR did fucking GNR Lives, they did the acoustic half of that EP, and it was so raw, and they were cussing, and Axl was still screaming, even though it was acoustic, but it was like it still hit you it hit you in the chest, man. You could feel it, but there's just something about it that I don't know. It's just so much more real, I guess, you know, and not taking anything away from anything else. Like, everything's, you know, all the different types are great, but there's just something about when you have somebody just sitting there with an acoustic and just fucking giving it their all and just screaming into the fucking microphone, and you can feel that shit, man. There's nothing to hide behind, you know. There's no distortion. There's no, you know, there's no processing. There's no. It's there, man, and you're like, you're either in the pocket or you're not, you know. But like,
right. The second solo gig I ever did, it was actually Super Bowl Sunday in 2016, was at Cafe Nola in downtown Frederick, and Wino was there, and he came up to me afterward and said the same thing. He says, it takes a lot of fortitude to get up there by yourself, just you and a guitar. And he said, I applaud you for that. And, you know, one of the things I heard from a lot of people, well, I hear it from a lot of people everywhere, but I heard it from a lot of people in Europe, just saying, I can't believe how much sound comes out of just you, a guitar, and the occasional harmonica bit.
Yeah, I love the harmonica part, man. Was that you doing that?
Yes.
Fuck yeah, man! Badass.
Everything on Angry Old Man is me. It was the first full album I ever did that my son didn't appear on, and Lou didn't play bass for me on this one. So everything you hear on Angry Old Man is me. All the bass tracks, the keys, of course, the guitars, harps, all that stuff. So. Early on, I would construct harmonica parts because I couldn't play, but I could sit there and noodle and then piece things together. But I thought, you know what? I need to learn how to do this and incorporate it in the live set. So I had just started doing that before COVID hit. So during COVID, I really had a chance to woodshed. And, you know, it's nothing fancy. There's really nothing fancy about my music at all. It's just, it is what it is.
No, dude, that is amazing, dude. Like, you just did that, like, that's crazy, man. No, man, this shit it sounds, when I listen to that, you know, when I hear the harmonica on there, it does not sound to me like somebody who just picked it up and just started doing it, man. That sounds like an old schooler motherfucker that's been doing it for a long time, man. Yeah, dude. Like you.
Well, thank you for that.
That is cool, man.
I had a guy at Pennsylvania Cigar Box Guitar Festival one year say, man, I can barely walk and think at the same time. He says, you're playing guitar, you're singing, you're playing harmonica, and you're chewing gum. Because I chew gum when I play. Keeps my throat moist. There's that word that everybody hates, moist. But no, it adds another element, another bit of flavor, another bit of color into the music. And I don't wear the head harness. I bought some of those early on, and I just couldn't get them to work right for me. But I found a really cool metal clip with a magnet on it that fits onto an SM58. You pop the ball off, put it on there, put the ball back on, and then the harp attaches to the magnet and sits right in front of the microphone. So a lot of people don't notice it until I start playing it live, and that's when the eyes pop open and the head, you know, they're like, holy shit, he's playing harp too. So the music benefits it, or it benefits the music, I should say. And yes, Dave Benzotti, moisture is vital.
Hell yeah. Fuck yeah, man. Well, so what's coming up next for you guys, man? What kind of plans do you have? Do you have anything you want to announce, or?
I've got a handful of somewhat local gigs coming up. Due to the day job, I kind of keep things sort of low-key in the winter, because if there's bad weather, I get yanked into work. And actually, the weekend after I got back from Europe, I was supposed to do a show in Buffalo, New York, and we got put on standby for possible bad weather, so I had to bow out of that. And I don't like to bow out. So I always do anything I book this time of year. I sort of book with the knowledge that, hey, you know, if things come up, you know, work related. January 17th, I'm at the Catamount Lounge in Front Royal, Virginia. That's a Saturday night. And the next afternoon, January 18th, Sunday, back at the Depot in Baltimore, familiar territory there. January 24th, I'm doing double duty. In the afternoon, I'm playing at Club RYD in Earlville, Maryland. Then hopping in the car and heading to Martinsburg, West Virginia, at Tilty McFlipper's Pinball Bar. That's been a fun venue to jam at. So I have book shows coming up. I'm doing Screamiverse in April in Roanoke, Virginia. Doing Halfway to Halloween in Maryland in May. Fright Reads Book Festival does that halfway between Halloween and Halloween. So, and then other things in the pipeline and whatnot. I've got feelers out to a lot of places. I was offered another tour, but my stepson graduates high school during the time we would have been away, so I had to decline that, and that I was really bummed because it was with oh God, his name went right out of my head. I'm a bad metalhead. Paul Quinn from Saxon. Something that he has going on, and it would have been a great fit, but you know, life intervenes, so I'll jump on the next one.
Well, if you're free in October, man, fucking definitely throw your name in the hat for our festival, dude. Fucking, we'll see what happens.
Oh, definitely. I'll send you guys what needs to be sent. We'll go from there.
Hell yeah, man. So, I also wanted to ask you about the album artwork, man. How did you? Is there a story behind that? Who did you get to take this photo and do this?
I love telling people this. That photo, the headshot, was a selfie taken in one of the men's room stalls at Warehouse Cinemas in Frederick. I was sitting there prior to a movie one night, and I noticed that the walls are a nice stone slate, dark gray, and there's this harsh light right above your head, and I'm like, this would make for a good background and get some really good, you know, overhead lighting, giving you those shadows on the face and whatnot. So I snapped a couple of those standing in front of the toilet and incorporated them into the artwork. You know, I'm just looking at that, the way that photo was framed, and I thought that could go on a tarot card.
Yeah, so I was gonna say it looks like a tarot card.
Yep. So that was where the design came from.
And if you look at it long enough, man, if you stare into your beard long enough, dude, I start to see like little fucking people and shit, like little heads and stuff, like all.
Well, you never know.
I don't know. Did you guys do that on purpose, or is that a mistake? Or is it's just happenstance. Coincidence.
But you know, we all have our own ways to dispose of our enemies, so you never know what might be in there.
Hell yeah, flavor saver, man.
Yeah, and to answer a question, something that you had as a blurb in the on the Facebook event page for this. And I'll just leave it at this. Kill a Motherfucker is about exactly what you think it's about.
That's one of my favorite songs, too, man. I love that song.
If you look at some of the videos I posted from Europe, they were singing along proud and loud to that one. So that was a good feeling.
Hell yeah, dude. Well, that's actually the song that I'm gonna play next after this interview, and then I'm gonna play some Iron Man also as well because we have to. But
yes, I was telling you earlier, a week from tomorrow is 8 years since we lost Alfred Morris III, and I don't think there has been a day go by since that I don't think of him and miss him. And I am very upfront and honest about the fact that I don't know that this solo thing would have sprouted the legs and gained footing the way it did if Al hadn't reached out to me and said, "Hey, I want you to sing for my band." That definitely elevated me and put me in front of the people who it definitely put my name out there, so that when it was my name on something, people were like, "Oh, I know that dude." So I miss that guy. Love him to death, and very, very grateful for what he brought to my life.
Doors open, dude. Doors open.
Yes.
Yeah, man. Rest in peace, man. Has there ever been any talks of a reunion or anything like that with Iron Man, or?
No. We did do one last show at his memorial concert. Bill Miskowitz from Rafa Typhon came in and played guitar, and that was the final Iron Man show. Now, his family asked us at his service, were we going to continue Iron Man? And we're like, no, Al was Iron Man. I couldn't in good conscience go out there and use that name unless he's standing there with the guitar on. Now, Spiral Grave, of course, was the remaining members of Iron Man with a new guitarist. But we didn't, other than the fact that we would put out there, we're the surviving members of Iron Man, we weren't trying to carry on that legacy. We were very much separate from it.
Well, but you're still carrying on the flag, though, and just in a different way, and you're bringing awareness because people right now, they're about to hear fucking Iron Man right after we play Kill a Motherfucker. So,
a lot of people in Europe would come up to me and say, "You sang for Iron Man," and we'd start talking about Al. There was a guy at the show in Austria that was wearing an Eric Wagner shirt, and we talked about Eric, and that led us to talk about Al. And just it's so cool to go out there and come across people who knew Al, who knew his music, who loved him, and you miss him, but it's so great to talk about him and to meet people whose lives that he touched. It's just a great feeling, and it's a great legacy to be a part of.
Man, you mentioned Eric Wagner. That was actually one of the first interviews that I ever did when I first started in radio. And
oh wow!
Yeah, that was way back when he was promoting the first Blackfoot fucking or Blackfinger fucking record.
Right. Yeah. Iron Man played. We played with Blackfinger. We played with the Skull. We played with Trouble as well, with Kyle Thomas on vocals, after Eric had left. So yeah, he was definitely a legend. And
Eric was another one. Yeah, Eric was a cool dude, man. He was down to earth, and I was friends with him on Facebook. We used to talk, and he was very approachable, man. For being one of my first interviews, I was nervous as hell, man. I didn't know what to fucking say. I was writing down all these questions and shit. I'm like, I gotta do this right, man. But as soon as we started talking, he right away made me feel very comfortable and just sort of
just conversational,
Yeah. Paved the way,
two dudes
man.
having a chat. Yeah.
he paved the way, man. Like, you know, like I think ever since then, I've pretty much always tried to keep an interview kind of like that. Like, just fucking, I want to make it feel like we're just a couple of dudes sitting on a couch, smoking a joint or something, you know, just fucking listening to fucking Sabbath and shit, talking some shit, you know, just have, you know, just be real, man. You know, like, that's all it, I mean, I don't know, but yeah.
No, that's the name of the game right there. I tell people, first and foremost, I'm a fan. And, you know, I love that I have so many friends that make great music, and that I can go see my friends play that great music, and I can share the stage with those people. I've never made a whole lot of money playing music, but I can't imagine my life without it. Just the experiences and the friendships, and it's I other than my children and my marriage, there's been nothing as rewarding in my life as playing music and being a part of it.
Hell yeah, D. Well, you know what? I always ask everybody that comes on the show for the gearheads and everything, you know, like, what kind of amps and pedals and shit are you using to get these sounds and whatnot? But this is acoustic, so I don't know, like, no. But still, like, it still matters. So, like, can you give us a rundown of, like, some of the stuff that you're using? Like,
absolutely. I play Emerald guitars. I had looked at Emerald guitars for years. I just gone to the website now and then and just drooled over them. And my wife saw me drooling and says, get one. And they're pretty pricey. They're carbon fiber. But I ordered one, was blown away, and a few months later ordered a second one. So the carbon fiber, they hold their tuning real well. They shipped from Ireland and came out of the box in tune. So they're a big part of the sound I get. I play through a Bose S1 Pro Plus amp. It's small. It's 160 watts, but I can run vocals and guitar through it. And therefore, I'm not at the mercy of a sound man anymore to give me a monitor. Because I can angle it up to me, and I've got my voice and my guitar right in my ear, and then they just run that to the board. The only pedal I use is a Pazuzu overdrive. I was using a Behringer bass overdrive that sounded great, but I like to use it to record with. So I went looking for overdrives, and I see this red pedal by Gakko called Pazuzu, and I said, oh my God, I've got to try that just because it's called Pazuzu.
Yeah.
And for those who don't know, Pazuzu was the demon in The Exorcist.
Yeah, dude, yeah.
So I just bought it based on the name and loved it. So that's my rig. And people are always asking, man, how do you get that tone? And it's funny playing acoustic for people coming up and asking you, man, that tone is just badass. And that's another thing I thank Al for. Al was all about tone. And I thank him for that, for giving me the desire to have an ear for it. And I took all my own gear to Europe. When I went over in 2018, I just took a guitar, and they provided me with amps at every stop. But this time I said, nope, I have my sound now. I've got to take my stuff. So I took all my gear over, and that helped a lot.
Dude, that's cool as hell, man. You know what? That makes me laugh, because I'm thinking about it. You know, like, as far as us gearheads, myself included, man, I know a lot of times we'll buy fucking shit just because it looks cool, or it sounds cool, or it has a cool name. But it kind of reminds me of, like, when we were kids and we would go into record stores, you remember?
Yeah.
Before the internet, and you just flip through records, and, like, if it had a cool cover, if it had a cool name, you'd fucking probably buy it, you know, and just not even know what it sounded like. Take it home then be like, oh.
How many kids got into Iron Maiden because they'd see those covers?
Yeah, me.
Yeah. So it's definitely
Number of the Beast, dude. What the fuck?
Yeah.
Man? That was insane.
Yeah.
It was perfect.
Dave Benzotti, yes, my next book is ready. It's coming out on March 13th.
Hell yeah.
This will be book number 7 if you're counting.
Hell yeah. Where can people go to find out about that? Is there do you have a website or a link where people can go to support that? And
Yeah, screamingmadd.com, and I'm going to put a link in the chat for everybody. But that's the hub. All my socials, retail links, all that stuff, right there on the website. So I just shot that to the chat. It didn't come up as a link. You'll have to cut and paste it, but there it is.
hell yeah, dude. Well, looking back on 2025, man, one of the biggest things that sticks out in my mind, and I can't get away from it. Ozzy, dude. Ozzy. What the fuck, man? You know, like.
Oh, I know. Well, the show in Austria was on Ozzy's birthday, and I closed that night with my arrangement of Children of the Grave.
Hell
and I had a guy crying on me afterwards. He's, just hugging me and just sobbing on my shoulder. I love Ozzy, man. That was awesome. And, I miss Ozzy. And it was, yeah. I mean, we all knew it was coming, but, you can't prep for it. And that's what finally got me off my ass. My son's named after Rob Halford. And for years we've been like, man, we got to go see Judas Priest. I got to take you to see who you were named for. And then when Ozzy died, I'm like, we got to go. So my wife and I met my son and my daughter just north of Albany, New York in September. COC, Judas Priest, and Alice Cooper. It was just a magical fucking night. Everybody was on point. It was such a great time. But it was Ozzy's death that really kicked me in the ass and said, can't put it off anymore.
That cover that you do, Children of the Grave, I saw that it's coming out on a compilation album, right?
Yes. Yep. Witching Buzz is doing that compilation. Didn't know if my interpretation would have been acceptable, because it is different. It's basically arranged as if it was one of my songs, and but they loved it, so got that on there. The night of Back to the Beginning in Birmingham, July 5th, we had a show at the Depot where a bunch of the local doom heads got together and did tribute to Sabbath and Ozzy. And I did a whole set of my arrangements of Sabbath songs. I saw Benzotti mention earlier, he got up and sang Snowblind with me. But my proudest moment of that gig was I was thinking, what is a great deep cut I could put in my set just that would get everybody going, holy shit. And I closed with Bombers Can Open Bomb Bays from Bill Ward's Ward 1 Along the Way. And
nice.
I said my goal was to do the deepest deep cut of the night, and I think I pulled it off. But that was a great night too, just everyone celebrating Sabbath and Ozzy. And then just a couple weeks later, he was gone.
Dude, yeah. I mean, fuck, man. That whole show that they did, at first, I didn't really want to fucking buy a ticket to it and see it, because I kept thinking, I don't want to watch that, like it's going to hurt. But then I kept seeing all my friends on Facebook and shit, they were talking about it. Finally, I was like, fuck it, man. I'm going to get a ticket, man. I got to.
Yeah.
And I bought one, and Pantera was just going on at that time. And just watching all the bands get up there and do their little tributes and say the things that they had to say was just, it was very emotional, man, because I felt the same way, like
Yeah.
We would not be here without them, dude. Like, they literally gave us heavy metal, man.
Yeah.
Like, they gave us this whole... There would be no Metal Devastation. None of this
No.
shit, man. Like, you know, like, I don't know what the fuck we'd be doing. Like, but, like, it's just, it's amazing, you know, like, how fucking deep their influence has been. And there's so many different subgenres and genres of metal that have come out ever since, and it keeps on growing. It keeps on going, and you know, every day there's something new. Some kid's gonna come out and just blow us all away, you know. And
if not for them, we would be on various chain gangs, likely in years past, and by now we'd be dead. I can't imagine. You know, the stuff that I write, you know, the angry stuff, the, you know, just abrasive, and it's this way for probably 95% of musicians out there. That's the way you get it out of your system. You know, I sing "Kill a Motherfucker" instead of going out and killing a motherfucker.
Yes.
So which is the better way to express yourself?
Absolutely. All right, well, Dee, I guess I'm about out of questions, man. Is there anything else you want to let the people know?
This story came to mind a while back, and since we were talking about what I write about, why I write about it, and reactions to it and whatnot, The Worst and Longest Day off of South of the Earth, my sister listened to that, and it's a song about depression from depression's point of view, and it basically is depression telling you, I've got you, and there's nothing you can do to get away from me. I let you be happy just long enough to enjoy it, and now I'm back. And it's a very bleak, nihilistic, emotionally crushing song, and my sister listened to it, and she says, why would you write a song like that? And I said, two reasons. One, you know, to get it out of my system. I said, but two, the part of me that's still a dreamer likes to think that somewhere out there, someone might listen to that song and say, wow, I'm not the only one who feels that way, or feels like this, and take a little bit of comfort in that. And when Iron Man went to London in December of 2013 for Rise Above's 25th anniversary show, somebody came up to me and says, "You're Dee, right?" And I said, "Yeah." And he says, "Do you write all the lyrics for Iron Man?" I said, "Well, I do now." He says, "Did you write The Worst and Longest Day?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said to me that song brought him so much relief because he thought he was the only person that felt like that. And I was blown away by it. Couldn't wait to get home to call my sister and say, guess what? So no matter what level we're doing it at, we stand the chance of improving someone's life, even if it's just misery loves company. So anybody out there who does art, any kind of art, if you draw, if you paint, if you write music, anything, do it, because you know, one, you're going to feel accomplished for having done it, and two, you just might touch someone else's life that way, and that's the name of the game.
Hell yeah, dude. Hell yeah. Well, Dee, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us, man. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
And, yeah, man, you're welcome, dude. What I'm going to do now, well, before I let you go, I got to get you to make us a station tag real quick. Can you do that?
I sure can.
All right, whenever you're ready, say something like, "This is Dee Calhoun, and you're listening to Metal Devastation motherfucking radio."
This is Screaming Mad D! And you're listening to motherfucking Metal Devastation Radio!
That was fucking awesome, dude. That was fucking awesome, dude. Gold star, dude. Like, holy shit, man. Holy shit, man. That was badass.
I'm waiting for someone to pound on the wall, you know.
Hell yeah, D. Thank you so much, dude. I really appreciate it, man.
You're welcome.
We love you, dude. Thank you so much for the music. Thank you for everything that you do. And
thank you.
I'm gonna blast some more fucking. I'm gonna kill a motherfucker right the fuck now, and then we're gonna go into some Iron Man for these motherfuckers so they go crazy. All right.
Awesome. Thank you, brother.
All right, man. We'll talk to you later.
All right.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
There you have it, folks. Dee Calhoun live on the Zach Moonshine Show with Metal Devastation motherfucking radio. Like I said earlier, put your speakers in your windows, put them in your front lawns, put them in your neighbor's driveway. Do whatever the fuck you gotta do, man. If you don't see U-Haul trucks everywhere tomorrow, motherfuckers moving out, what the fuck are you even doing, dude? Like, seriously, man, let's fucking go, man. Crank it the fuck up.